Hello, 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 hello. Let me go into another room so that I can get a better signal. Hello, everyone. Hello, this is Natasha Robinson, and I am here to discuss day 2 of the Derek Chauvin trial. What did we learn from yesterday? We learned from yesterday that this is not the George Floyd trial. This is a Derek Chauvin trial because George Floyd cannot be prosecuted or tried for his own murder. So we are watching the Derek Chauvin trial on yesterday. I had some technical difficulties, so I had to do 2 videos of my analysis or assessment of what is going on so far in the trial. But today I'm coming on my computer, so hopefully all is well. If you are watching, my name is Natasha Robinson, criminal defense attorney, licensed and retired, and I am the creator and curator of Legalese Please. If you have any questions during this analysis, by all means, please put your questions in the comment section so that I can address them. What do we hear or what do we witness today? Well, what we witnessed today was the prosecution calling its witnesses, and the majority of his witnesses today were young people, people who were present at the scene or were, as with one of the witnesses, she was going to the grocery store, Cup Foods or Cup Groceries, corner store, and she saw uh, basically George Floyd being murdered by Derek Chauvin. And so we heard from her. We also heard from some other witnesses. One witness is named DF. She stated that she stays up at night apologizing to George Floyd because when she saw him being murdered, in effect, she said, A, that she wished she could have done more. And then B, she wished that she could have done more because she saw her black father or her black brother or her black relatives, any of them could have been George Floyd. And as she was testifying, she was, very, very emotional, very traumatized, for which I hope that all of these witnesses are in or are receiving counseling, because that is a lot to unpack, and they need some. I would say they would need some assistance to make sure that they are able to talk to someone about what they witnessed, because I promise you they will never forget that day or what they saw. So you heard from the prosecution witnesses. The last witness that you heard was a Minneapolis firefighter who was testifying as to what she saw, what she heard, what she was told. And it got a little dicey when she was being cross-examined. And when I say cross-examined, I really mean that in quotes, because I don't think it was a cross-examination, because as a former law student, as a lawyer, there are certain techniques in which you are to engage in cross-examination, and the defense attorney clearly had it with her. Even the judge had it with her. You could tell by his body language when he was telling her to answer the questions that are posed, that he was trying to maintain some of a composure in telling her just answer what is asked. But it was clear that what she was testifying to, she felt disgusted based on what she saw. She felt traumatized. She felt sad. She broke down a couple of times in tears while on the witness stand. And so she was testifying about that. So all of the witnesses that we heard from today so far have been part of what we call the prosecution's case in chief, which is where they are offering 2 types of evidence. They are offering testimonial evidence, which is when someone is testifying under oath, and they are offering physical evidence, such as things that may be tangible that can assist the jury in deciding whether or not Derek Chauvin is guilty. Now, what's going to come down the line is you're going to hear testimony from police officers, possibly, and then you're going to hear testimonies from doctors. Now, the police officers that you will not hear from will be the 3 remaining police officers who have also been charged in some way, some shape, some form, some fashion with the death of George Floyd. Now, why are these officers not testifying? Is multi-layered. The first reason they are not testifying is because in this country we have the right against self-incrimination, and they have stated that they would plead the fifth if they were ever called to testify. So they are not going to testify. The other reason why they would not testify is because whatever is testified to in this hearing, there is a court reporter who is taking down everything and creating a written record, which is called a transcript. If the officers say something in this trial that is different than their own trial, then they could be what is called impeached, which means their credibility can be questioned or even undermined, because the questioning attorney would say, well, you said that on day 1 it was this, and now you're saying on day 372nd day that it's something else. And so impeachment is a legal questioning tactic to undermine a witness by saying, witness, you are either mistaken, you are biased, or you are lying. Okay. And so if a witness says something on day 1 and they decide to change it in court, that's grounds for impeachment, and is basically demonstrating to the finder of fact, which in this case is the jury, you are not to believe this witness, because regardless of what version you believe, the bottom line is there are 2 versions, and so this person should not be believed. Or you can say, I want you to believe either the earlier version or the version today in court. It just depends on what your strategy is. All right. So that is why you do not hear the police officers testifying, is because they strategically do not want to play their hand. They want to see how this trial plays out, and they don't want to be locked into a form of testimony that they may not be able to wiggle out of in their own respective trials. Okay. The last reason why you do not hear the other police officer testifying is because early on in this case, there was called a motion to sever. Sever as in to cut or as in to separate. And so when you do a motion to sever, you are saying, even though we may have all been arrested together or all charged together, I do not want defendant 1, 2, or 3 to affect my case, because the phrase "birds of a feather flock together." I don't want their actions or their alleged actions attributed to me. I want to be judged on my own merit, my own actions or lack thereof. So that is why you do not see them tried together. One thing that was standing out to me for this case is about the issue of discretion. I have taught for a number of years now that police officers' most impactful tool is not a gun, it is not a taser, it is not a billy club, it is not physical force. It is discretion, because law enforcement is the tool that law enforcement can decide to determine whether or not a person is going to enter the criminal legal system, or if the law enforcement is going to say, you know what, this is your first time, I'll give you a break, go on ahead, don't let me catch you again. All right. And so it is the position of myself that we want law enforcement to have discretion. Where we have a problem with discretion is where discretion is either a tool or a weapon. If discretion is a tool, then that means that you are using it with ethics. You are making sure that the person who receives the benefit of the discretion, that they are benefiting in a way where you are able to say, okay, this is something I need to follow up on, and this is something where I need to cut someone a break. Okay, think of speeding tickets. Speeding tickets, if we were to arrest every person who ever went over the speed limit or every person who drove without their headlights on, then the legal system would explode because there would be so many people of in this society, including me, who have broken the speed limit. And where it says 35, we'd be like, oh, they don't mean that. Let me drive 45 miles an hour. Okay. And if you were pulled over by police officers, they have the discretion to either write you a ticket or to give you a warning. In that situation, discretion is a tool. The trial involving Derek Chauvin is about weaponized discretion. Weaponized discretion, which is when you use discretion as a weapon. This former officer felt that whatever he was going to do, he had the discretion to do, and no one and nothing was going to stop him. So while we are talking about, getting rid of police officers and defunding police and all that type of stuff, which, I'm not going to shame or say you need to feel this way or feel that way. My point is that one of the things we need to enforce more is how we are talking about the policies that are put in place that alert these officers about what they can and cannot do. But as I saw today, one of my good mentors, Dr. Irie Session, posted, is that awareness does not necessarily mean change. You can be aware of something, but that does not necessarily mean you feel that awareness is now going to influence the from now on mentality that you have. Derek Chauvin and his ability to restrain George Floyd indicates to me that either he has done this before, it's not even either, it's probably a both and, that he's done this before, and he feels that there is not going to be any accountability to what he is doing because this is in broad daylight. This is in front of a crowd. And it's clear that he's being videotaped not only by the street surveillance, but also by people who are filming. And he is wearing his police officer uniform. And he has, if you ever to watch his demeanor, there is no rushing whatsoever in his actions of realizing, you know what, I went too far. Let me not weaponize my discretion. Let me get off of this man's back and his neck, literally. And there is a quote that talks about the spectrum of use of force. And I can't remember the name of the officer, but he used to be the he used to be the chief of the International Police Association. And he said, anytime a suspect acquiesces to the force that is used against him, and he indicates his ability or her ability to acquiesce by obedience or by submission, any force that is used past that point is excessive use of force. So if the police officers tase me and I fall out and I have succumbed to the energy that is surging through my body, if the officers continue to use force after I have already indicated submission or obedience or acquiescence, that is excessive use of force. But that's not what he's charged with. That is not what Derek Chauvin is charged with. Derek Chauvin is charged with manslaughter in the second degree, murder in the second degree. No, I'm sorry. Let me say it again. He is charged with manslaughter in the second degree, third degree murder, and second degree murder. Okay? As I said yesterday, be clear. None of these charges that he is facing has to do with purposeful or intentional decisions, meaning he is not charged with intentionally taking the life of George Floyd. He is not charged with purposely taking the life of George Floyd. He is charged with lesser included criminal offenses. Okay, murder in the third degree is whoever without intent to effect the death of any person causes the death. So murder in the third degree, which can be punished for up to 25 years, is saying that this person does not have intent to cause a death, but causes the death anyway. Okay, that's important to know that difference. That's murder in the third degree. Manslaughter in the second degree. Any person who causes the death of another by any of the following means: by the person's culpable negligence, whereby the person creates an unreasonable risk and consciously takes chances of causing death or great bodily harm. At no time did you hear me say in reading that Minnesota statute that the person charged with murder intended to do so. So, no matter what the video shows, no matter how we feel about it emotionally, he's not charged with first degree murder. He is charged with the type of murder that says you should have been more careful, you created an unreasonable risk, and you did not intend to kill somebody, but you ended up killing them anyway. That's what he's charged with. Okay. And so I want us to be clear that as emotionally angry and furious and disgusted as some of us may be, it is not necessarily about the emotion, but it is about the evidence. And it is about the evidence aligning to the guilt or not aligning to the guilt of Derek Chauvin. That's what I want us to remember. So, as disgusting as that video is, as disgusting as the actions of Derek Chauvin and the inactions and actions of his police colleagues, please understand that emotion is not what is on trial here. It is the evidence. And the prosecution has to show beyond a reasonable doubt that there's causability, that there is a link between what Derek Chauvin did and what George Floyd experienced, which is why in some instances George Floyd is on trial, because they're going to talk about the fact he had fentanyl and a methamphetamine in his system. When you hear the medical testimony from the coroner, which is also, we call in Illinois, the medical examiner, they are going to talk about the external investigation they did, which is what they did on his topical person, what evidence of injury they could see on that. And then they're also going to talk about the internal investigation, which includes where his neck was broken or fractured, or the weight on his body, on his sternum, his inability to breathe, his toxology report, because that is going to be big. The defense is going to hang their hat on that, and they're going to say that because of what George Floyd was already experiencing biologically, what Derek Chauvin did not cause his death, or it was not the main factor that caused his death. Okay, so we need to pay attention to what they say and what they don't say. Okay, because if we don't, then what's going to happen is we are going to lose sight of what's at play here. And what is at play here is not whether what Derek Chauvin did was illegal, but whether they can prove that it is illegal. And that is what makes the difference. And so I just want us, no matter how we feel about it, I saw someone, I was in a conversation with a Facebook friend where they said, why are we even, having a trial? The video shows that he did it. And the answer to that is yes. But also understand that there is a difference between factual guilt and legal guilt. It's not so much about what happened as much as it is what is able to be proved about what happened, which is why the prosecution has to be very strategic in who they call as witnesses and what they present as evidence. Because if they cannot connect that causal chain, that Derek Chauvin's actions resulted in George Floyd's death, then there is going to be an evidentiary problem. All right? So that's my take on today. I don't know if they're going to call any more witnesses, but I felt the need to come on now and give an analysis so that we are all brought up to speed about what has happened on day 2. There are many other things that I could talk about and discuss, but I wanted to make sure that we all were on the same page about what is happening, what is being said, and the significance of what is being said. As I said earlier, if there are any questions or comments that you want to put in the chat, put them in now, or you can put them in later for those who will be watching this later, because I wanted to make sure that I was detailed enough for you to understand not just what has happened, but also the consequences and the significance of what has happened. Yeah, Dr. Christina, yeah, I was very moved by the youngest witness. I give kudos, if you will, to all of the underage witnesses that testified. I have done a lot of direct examination, cross-examination in my day. And one of the toughest things to do is to do an examination of any type for those who are 18 and younger, because there's no playbook for that. There is no way to protect them from all of the feelings and the anxiety and the judgment that comes with their testimony. Okay. And so I was very moved by it. I watch these things a little bit differently. I watch them through a legal perspective. That does not mean that I don't feel, but what it means is I'm processing it differently, in by way of a legal professional. That doesn't mean the tears don't show up. It just means that I can cry and think at the same time. And I was watching this, and I think that this is a whole mess. But the sad part is that this trial is not an anomaly, meaning it's not something that, I will say, the incident is not an anomaly. The taking of Black life by those who are in law enforcement, literally taking their life or figuratively taking their life, the statistics are there, and it is not an accident. And I know when old boy in Laquan McDonald's murder, Jason Van Dyke, when the judge pronounced his sentence and gave it out in months as opposed to years, there were those that did not hear the months part. They heard 80, whatever it was, 85 months, 86 months. And people like, oh my God, we got justice. And I'm like, what I need you to understand is the judge gave the sentence in terms of months, which means you have to take 12 months and divide it into 86 or 84, and you will realize that ain't no type of time at all. And so it is very frustrating when we see the miscarriages of justice and just the outright unmitigated gall to kill somebody in daylight in your police uniform in front of crowds. That's some new gall. But when you feel that you are being protected, or there's no accountability, or here it is, you can weaponize your discretion however you see fit, because ain't nobody gonna do a damn thing to you. This is what the Minnesota firefighter was saying. The cross examination by Derek Chauvin's attorney, he said at some point, well, as time gets further from the actual incident, your memory gets to fade. And what she said, the firefighter said, and I'm paraphrasing, is that's why I'm glad it was recorded. Now, if that wasn't a clap back, I don't know what was. Okay? Because, first of all, just because you can't remember something does not mean that your testimony about it should automatically be undermined. Okay? Because if you ever engage in what is called trauma-informed prosecution or investigation, if a person does not remember for certain types of crimes, that does not mean that they can't be believed. It just means sometimes the trauma and how you house information in your brain. You make decisions with your prefrontal cortex. And sometimes when you're making the decisions or you're housing the memories in one part of your brain, you cannot retrieve that information, not because it didn't happen, not because you're not believed, but because what you went through was so traumatic. Okay. So when the firefighter was testifying, the defense attorney tried to be slick, and because he did not formulate his questions correctly, she got in that ass. Okay. So it was swift and to the point. All right. So again, I'm Natasha Robinson, and I just wanted to come on and provide some type of legal analysis and perspective, because when they're asking all these experts and stuff on CNN and MSNBC and ABC and all that type of stuff, there is no button that allows people to ask questions. There is no telephone line. There is no email. There is no live stream that allows you to ask questions. And so that's why I'm here, to provide the information in a way where we can understand it, where we can access it. And then if you have any questions, you can ask me. All right. So I have gone over my time. I hope that this video finds you well, or as well as you can be. I want you to stay encouraged. I want you to understand that your eyes are the window to the soul. So you do not have to ingest everything. You do not have to watch. You do not have to listen. You do not even have to be in this space. I appreciate that you're here. But if it gets too much, then you are the determiner for how much you can carry and how much you can digest. Okay. And so don't overdo it. Don't feel like, okay, you're less woke if you're not watching this trial or you're not watching this commentary. It is okay. Okay. Engage in self care first, and then you will be able to know what you can and cannot handle. All right. So you all have a great evening. And hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to come on for day 3 to explain and kind of synthesize what is happening. All right. You all take care. Bye bye.